Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're digging into a seriously fascinating case study all about scheduling efficiency. Listen, if you're involved in operations, maintenance, or frankly, managing any kind of skilled team, you know firsthand how stressful it can be to plan for the unknown. We usually think that leaving a little wiggle room in our schedules is just, well, the smart, responsible thing to do, right? But today, we're going to look at hard data from a very specific maintenance scenario that reveals why playing it safe and leaving that buffer might actually be hurting your operations and holding your whole team back.
So are you accidentally wasting a full 20% of your workforce's time just waiting for things to go wrong? Let's dive right into this question by looking at a scheduler named Fred. Now, Fred represents pretty much any planner out there who has a massive block of time they need to manage efficiently. His story is going to highlight a hidden inefficiency that creeps into so many industrial and corporate schedules, often disguised as just being prepared. Let's follow Fred and find out what's really going on here.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the Maintenance Scheduling Dilemma, Managing the Backlog.
Picture this. Fred is looking at his plant's backlog of planned work, and he needs to allocate tasks for his maintenance crew for the upcoming week. His crew has forecasted a total of 400 hours of available labor across all of their various craft specialties. Think of this 400-hour block as our game board for this scenario. We have exactly 400 hours of human potential ready to be deployed. How Fred decides to spend this currency of time, well, that's going to determine the overall health and reliability of his entire plant.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 80% trap, or as our source material bluntly calls it, not this way.
In our first scenario, Fred decides to play it totally safe. He looks at those 400 available hours and decides to only schedule 80% of his crew's forecast. He's essentially hiding that remaining 20% in a drawer just in case emergencies pop up. On the surface, this feels like really responsible scheduling. I mean, things break, emergencies happen, and you want your team ready to respond on a dime, right? But as we're about to see, this cautious mindset triggers a massive cascade of compromises.
Because of this artificial ceiling he just created, Fred runs out of allocation space fast. He only squeezes in 60 hours of vital preventative maintenance. By intentionally shrinking his available hours, critical equipment is literally just left waiting, which ironically increases the long-term risk of the exact emergencies he's hiding from in the first place.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates the real problem with the buffer mindset. As Fred tries to allocate the remaining work, he hits a wall. He has 20 hours of first-class electrician time left in his artificially restricted 80% bucket. To perfectly match their exact high-level skill set to the available schedule, he actually assigns them 20 hours of lower importance priority 4 work. He prioritizes matching the job title over completing the tasks that the plant actually needs done most urgently.
So the week goes by, and guess what? Absolutely zero emergencies happen. Fred's crew completes a total of 320 hours of planned work. They did exactly what they were scheduled to do. But that 20% buffer, it was essentially dead time. The plant missed out on 80 hours of potential productivity, and highly skilled workers spent their time on low-priority tasks just to make the schedule look neat and tidy.
Let's put these two mindsets side by side and see how this builds into our alternative, highly effective approach, the 100% mindset. On the left, we see the glaring limitations of Fred's first attempt, sacrificing preventative maintenance and misaligning skills with priorities, all just to leave room for the unexpected. But over on the right, we have a totally different philosophy. What if we schedule for full capacity, maximize our preventative work, and truly align our skills with the ultimate goals of the plant?
Which brings us to Section 3, the 100% solution, or doing things this way.
Let's hit rewind. This time around, Fred completely drops the fear of emergencies. He aims for maximum efficiency and targets exactly 100% of the forecasted labor hours. He is going to build an advanced schedule that puts all 400 hours of human potential to work on paper.
Boom! The immediate win here is absolutely huge. Because his scheduling bucket is now 25% larger, Fred successfully schedules 80 hours of preventative maintenance, rather than just 60. That is a massive boost in proactive care for the equipment, which vastly improves the plant's long-term outlook and reliability. He's already actively reducing the chance of future emergencies, just by changing his scheduling target.
Now let's look at Section 4, Breaking the Skill Barrier, Prioritizing Plant Goals.
Okay, so just like before, Fred has first-class electrician hours left to allocate. But this time, he's faced with a really strategic choice. Does he choose the less important priority 4 tasks that fit their rank exactly? Or does he look at the more important priority 3 tasks that are higher up on the plant's needs, but technically only require a lower-ranked third-class electrician?
Here is Fred's counterintuitive twist, and honestly, it's brilliant. He completely ignores strict, rigid job classifications. He knows his first-class electricians are more than capable of doing third-class work safely, so he assigns those highly skilled workers to the more vital priority 3 tasks. He essentially has them work below their expert level, but in service of a much higher plant priority.
By focusing on higher plant priorities instead of exact job titles, Fred successfully navigates the backlog. He locks in a fully allocated advanced schedule of 400 hours. Every single available hour is now pointed at the most important, impactful work the plant needs done, regardless of whether a senior tech is turning a slightly less complex wrench.
Once again, the week plays out and no emergencies happen. But look at the difference in the results. This time, the crew completes a massive 360 hours of highly prioritized work. Yes, there's always a little bit of operational friction. They didn't hit all 400, but they achieved 40 more hours of productive high-value work than the first scenario. By scheduling to full capacity, they simply got way more of the right things done.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, Maximizing Efficiency and Reliability, the core methodology.
Our source text codifies this whole concept as Scheduling Principle 4. It states crystal clearly that the scheduler should match 100% of the forecasted labor work hours with work orders to create the advanced weekly schedule. You don't hold back, you don't try to outguess the universe by leaving large chunks of time blank, you fill the board.
But to actually pull off this 100% allocation effectively, you have to follow a few key rules. First, you've got to be willing to consider working persons below their strict level of expertise. You are selecting the best combination of work orders to achieve ultimate plant goals, like reliability and efficiency, not just trying to keep people perfectly inside their little job description boxes. The only strict rule here is that you must ensure the crew possesses the skill required to accomplish the work safely. A first-class tech can do third-class work, but obviously not the other way around. It's all about flexibility in service of the bigger picture.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to take a really hard look at your own operations, your own team, or hey, even your own daily planner. Ask yourself, is your schedule's safety buffer actually just disguised inefficiency? Are you sacrificing today's crucial preventative maintenance for tomorrow's completely hypothetical crisis? I challenge you to test your 80% assumptions this week. You might be amazed at how much hidden capacity you've been sitting on all along. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.